Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how I do my eyebrows, talking about some of my favorite brow products, and giving you some just general tips that will hopefully help you. An eyebrow tutorial is really tricky because everyone's are so different and need totally different things. But I'm going to give you some tips hopefully that will help you, and when you see my tutorial for how I do mine, maybe you can take some of the tips and make them work for you if yours are a little different. Of course, like I said, everyone's are different. Not everyone is supposed to have like a big arch or, darker brows by any means. So when you think about filling in or doing your eyebrows, don't think darker. Don't think I have to make them darker or, I need to really arch them or do something crazy. My biggest tip is to see what your natural brows do on their own. If they're a little flatter, if they don't have so much of a natural arch, clean them up and work with what you've got. And if they're lighter blonde or something, don't try to make them dark brown or anything, or feel like you have to make them so much darker. I was so afraid to fill mine for years because every time I would get them done, or if I ever had my makeup done years ago, they would always give me like these giant scary Groucho brows because they would match my brow color, which I do have. If you pluck my brow hairs, they're super thick and crazy thick and like black and dark or dark brown. So they're crazy dark. But I soften them up with a lighter product. I don't mask them with the lighter product. I just go around it with a lighter brown. So that's my biggest tip. If you have dark brows like I do, or certainly even darker brows, don't feel like, okay, I need to grab the brow kit that says dark, or the brow kit that has a black or whatever. I would never use black on my brows. That's another thing entirely, but go for a light medium. All of my brow products are light. What I use on mine is considered light. This is the powder that I use and it's called Light, and I use both of these. So if you've got darker brows, biggest tip, go for a lighter shade. Never match them because you don't need to deepen the color. You just need to sort of enhance them and like smooth them out, enhance the shape and stuff, rather than darkening them. If you've got lighter brows, like if they're more blonde, if they're a really light brown, then yeah, you may want to match them or go a few shades darker just to enhance them a bit. But always try to make it soft. The worst thing I always say that you can absolutely do is to make that line, and then look like you've got brows that are drawn on. But that is really impossible to do if you just kind of follow some of my tips, and always use a spoolie brush to, I'll show you what that is in a moment, to blend them out. You can even, rather than buy one, or like a nice one, you can buy these ones that I've sworn by for years. You can get these like at beauty supply stores, drug stores. They come in a bunch of, in a pack of a lot of them. And they're disposable, which is good because I use mine for my mascara a lot, or my brows. Not the same one because that would get weird. But yeah, these are just great, and I think the most important tool where brows are concerned. I keep one in my bathroom and I comb them every time I'm in there and wash my face or get up. I just always comb my brows because mine are very hairy and kind of out of control. This is my natural brow shape. I do not tweeze them hardly ever. I used to tweeze the heck out of them in my college years, and ended up with just, it was bad. I used one of those magnifying mirrors, which at the time I thought, I've got the best brows ever. This is awesome. They look so good. And now I'm like, well, okay. No, ma'am. So just be careful with those. I would say if you have a magnifying mirror that you tweeze with, you need to get rid of that immediately. I don't care who you are or how great you think you're doing with it. There's no reason anyone should have one of those unless if you just can't see. And if you can't see, you don't need to be tweezing your brows anyways. The only thing that I ever tweeze on mine is if like I have a weird, something that's growing in the middle that's just way outside of the brow shape. But I have, since I was little, I've always had naturally arched brows. And so I do realize that mine are a bit easier to do than maybe some other people's. But again, if you are having to spend if you have blonde eyebrows and really light and you're trying to make them look really arched and dark, then you may need to not do that, because you probably need to stick with something that is a lot more similar to your natural brow shape, because they are that shape for a reason. That's what looks best on your face. You can clean them up, you can enhance them, but that would be the same as me saying, okay, I'm going to totally blonde out my brows and make them look totally different. My face would look very different. And while you might be used to that, try pulling it back a little bit and going for something a little more natural. My biggest, I think, brow sin is when you like stamp that middle part, and it's just, I hate it. Whenever I'm talking to someone that's like that, I'm just like all I'm looking at is their brows, you know, and it's just like, oh, you know. And if you use like a pencil or something, use a spoolie brush and clean that up, and you'll never have that line. You can definitely fill that in right there and make a line to start, but then blend it out, you know. Don't ever leave the line there. So what I use is this Sigma Light Brow Powder, and you can definitely use, the Anastasia makes a similar one, because I can see where you'd probably want to try a brow powder before you buy it, because they're just finicky. I think that you just have to get the tone so right. I use both of these, and I'll show how I do that in my video, or my tutorial in a minute, which is good because most brow little palettes like this, even MAC has some that come in twos, but I haven't found one of those that I like. They come with different colors, so that's great. And I'll show you how I use that lighter color and do all that in a moment. But a product that I've really been into is this Benefit Gimme Brow. This I also show in the video, in the tutorial in a moment. And this is the light medium. And I have got this all over my brows. I normally wouldn't pair these every day, but I did for the sake of the tutorial and showing you like how I would use this one too. So the light medium is going over my darker brown brows, and it doesn't look like I've caked on like, you know, a lighter product over. So it's just, you know, you just got to be so careful. If you've got darker brows, go for lighter products or medium brown products. But this is wonderful, and I can show you the little brush. How tiny and cute. I mean, it just fits perfectly. It fills in, and it works great. If you don't want to take the time to use a powder or anything, you can always use that. It's good. Brow gel too, that's my favorite brow gel, but if I'm just going to use a clear, I always go for the Maybelline Great Lash. This is just the easiest and best to pick up, and just easy to buy and cheap. The Revlon Brow Fantasy is also a great option if you're more prone to liking pencils. This is a great pencil. It's very dry. It's not super creamy. I think that for the most part, I stay away from pencils because I feel like they do end up breaking down over the day. Whereas the powder, if it's powder, it's always powder, whether it's in here or it's on your, you know. Pencils they can melt, and when they are on your skin for a long time, I just feel like they can break down, and so I don't know, you have to set them with powder, and by then it's just, why not just, to me, I just rather use the powder. But this one has a really great brow gel on the other end, and I use, did I say dark blonde is a shade that I use? And don't ever think, oh, well, she's got dark blonde hair, those are the shades she should be using. You really need to look at your actual brows and just follow those guidelines. And also, if you have black eyebrows, definitely go for like a charcoal brown or even a gray. Not a warm brown at all. The dark brown I think you'll like. And then another brow pencil that I really like is the Benefit Instant Brow, and the color that I use on this one is light. And it's just really good stuff. I think that it transfers really well. If you're the type of person that swears by a pencil and you've just got to draw them and you have to do that, try this, and definitely use this after you've drawn them. Definitely do that. So I'm going to show you how I do mine. Definitely not saying this is how you should do yours, but maybe you can take some of the tips that I give you if yours are a little different. And yeah, hopefully it helps. If you are, one more tip that I'm going to give, and then I swear we're going to get to the tutorial, but if you're in a position where you feel like you have really overplucked your brows, where I have been before, definitely in the past, I always say this, and it works. Throw all of your shame and your vanity out the window and let those beasts grow in for like 2 weeks and see what happens. And then you'll see the natural shape. You'll see what they're supposed to do on their own, and then just kind of clean them up. So that's what I think is a really good tip for brows. If you feel like you need to start over, start over. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do mine now. Okay, so my brows are definitely not bad by any means. I actually combed them, and I kind of wish I had enough so you could have just seen, but they're, you know, you get the point. But what I do is I use a powder to fill them. I use this double-sided brush by Sigma, which you can buy them separately. This is the one that came in the kit that I don't believe they sell anymore. This is an E75, just a little angled brush. And then on the other side I have a little spoolie brush, which is their E80. But you can buy these just like this. you know, at beauty supply stores or drugstores does the same thing. I use these for my mascara. So I like having these because I like to throw them away because they do get gross after you do your mascara a while. But you can get one for your brows too. But I just use this one because it's sort of easy and it's all together. And then I use the light brow powder. And I mostly use, well, I use a mix of both shades, but I start with the darkest one with my angled brush. And I always put the most color right here at the arch. I never put the most color here because I find that's, for me, that part's usually like pretty intense and I don't want to darken that up anymore. But even if you've got very light brows and that's very light, you don't want the most color to be in the middle. And I like to fill from the top. So what I do is I sort of just start filling in to make it look smoother. And then as I go, I like this brush because I like to be able to flip it and comb it. I think brows should look really soft. I think that having that line where it's obvious that you filled them in never looks good. It can, you know, you can see it and say, wow, she did a really good job filling her brows. She can really do that. But it just never looks natural. I hate that. And then when I get the top filled, I go up under and I just lightly sort of right there, I have a little gap that doesn't fill in too well. And then I take whatever's left on the brush or the lighter shade and I do, you know, make sure that there's a good little tail. This one's a little longer than this one. That's just how they grow. What I like to do now is rather than taking that dark shade and feeling like you have to really get it all smooth with the dark shade, you will end up looking like, I don't even want to say. So you I'm just gonna stop myself before I get in trouble. You take the light shade, or I take the light shade, and I like to go around with that to smooth it out even further, rather than adding a lot of darkness to it. I just smooth it out with that. And then just comb. And then I will do my other side. But you see that just looks so much softer. It looks more defined with, and yeah, it looks a little darker, but it's not like I've changed the tone and made them too dark or made them look black looking or anything like that. So I'll do this one really quickly. Give it a quick comb before I start. That one wasn't as combed out. Start at this arch on the top. Take whatever's left on the little tail. This one, like I said, doesn't grow quite as longer on that side. So just kind of create that. Brows are just, they can be so easy. Don't feel like it's rocket science or anything super hard. And you see how quickly that was done. And I'm not saying like this is, you know, because I do realize that I have good brows to start with, but it just all goes back to the fact where if I didn't have brows at all, I wouldn't try to make them look like this. I would deepen them a little bit with a lighter, you know, with a medium brown, a lighter brown, definitely a lighter brown if they were really light, and just make them look like a softer, like better version of what they were in the first place. So work with what you have. That's my biggest tip. Then I take my Maybelline Great Lash, which is a great brow gel. You don't have to spend a whole lot on brow gel. And just lightly, I have to wipe this off a lot because this product can get pretty goopy and you want to keep your brows looking soft. But my brows, since they are so hairy and they do like, they'll be like sticking all different directions. So I do like to use that. And I've sort of been pairing that back and forth lately with the Benefit Gimme Brow. I actually really like this, and I use this a lot when I don't want to take the time to do this, which this takes 2 seconds. But I really like this. It's got this tiny little brush and I can get it right, you know, where I need it and sort of deposit the color. Like, see, I can do it on the top. So a lot of times I'll just skip all of the powder and everything. So this is kind of like a 2-in-1. If I was, like, say I hadn't done that at all, this is what I would do. I would just sort of, my brows are going to be like super defined today. You can just go around and it's got this light tint to it. And it just sort of makes them look really uniform and smooth. And that's what I think it's all about. I like for my brows to look like you can still see the hairs and it still looks natural, not like you've painted on a brow or drawn them on. But just have them blend a little nicer and just look a little smoother and softer. So This is like a 2-second amazing product, and this will last a very long time throughout the day. And I think this little tube will last a long time too, because you really don't need much of it. So that's how I do my brows. So like I said, brows are just so unique and personal. Everyone's is different. There's not a right or wrong way, but hopefully you can take some of my tips and all of these guidelines that I've sort of given you, not that they're just exact rules, but just good tips to help you get your best brow look, no matter what they look like. So I hope that helped you guys, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye.